Meghan's title could be on very shaky ground. Yet those close to the Duchess insist she won't be intimidated. Meghan's never been short of ambition or drive and is absolutely relentless, said the...
Stop while you are ahead, because you're going to look like a fool. It's ridiculous. Stop it. Okay? This doesn't even make sense to me that she would even think that...
The monarchy stayed silent. The crowd of stunned guests whispered and waited, not daring to breathe. Then William shut down every last maybe with one bold move that sent shockwaves through the palace. Prince William crossed a line no future king had ever dared to cross before. And once he did, there was no turning back. This wasn't some quiet leak, not a bit of palace spin, and definitely not one of those soft statements meant to test public reaction. William stamped his own name on a statement, so sharp, so final, that even people deep inside royal circles had to reread it twice just to believe their eyes. Just 19 words. That was all it took. Hidden inside those few lines was a brutal message. There would be no path for return, no second chances. The shock hit hard because William had spent most of his adult life doing the exact opposite. He always stayed calm, let rumors swirl, and took the blows in silence, exactly how heirs are trained to do.
Relations between the Sussexes and the Prince of Wales remain fraught. William's running out of patience, said the source. Good on him. He believes the Sussexes have cashed in on their royal connection.
Insiders instantly knew the truth. Negotiations were dead. This wasn't a warning, not a test run, but pure closure. A former palace press secretary nailed it when they said, "When William speaks like this, the matter is beyond debate." And that's when everything flipped. The tone shifted from quiet gossip to full realization. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Meghan anymore. This cut deeper. The statement revealed the kind of king William intends to be. A man ready to stand firm, defend his family, protect the crown, and shape the monarchy's future without backing down. For anyone. For Catherine, the breaking point didn't come from one headline. It came from a non-stop pattern that just wouldn't quit.
He went scorched earth. The palace said, absolutely not. We're going to completely cut you off now. Thanks to Oprah, thanks to Spare, thanks to the Harry and Meghan Netflix series.
By September 2024, she had thrown herself completely into her mission. Early childhood programs, mental health work, and long-term policies meant to create real, lasting change. But every step forward seemed to trigger something dark. Negative stories started popping up, and they weren't random at all. They appeared with suspicious timing, the same language, the same so-called palace insiders, and the same quiet digs that chipped away at her reputation again and again. At first, Catherine brushed it off, staying calm like she always did. She's sharp, disciplined, and she notices patterns. Soon, she began keeping track. By November, she had logged 10 separate times when bad press hit less than 48 hours after her public appearances. 10 times! That wasn't coincidence, that was coordination. Carefully and without drama, she took it all to William. "This is intentional," she told him firmly. "This is interference." For Catherine, who almost never complains, who avoids confrontation, saying those words was massive.
Swelled up with ego, she doesn't even know when to control it. Like, at this point, you need to just shut your mouth, okay? That's ridiculous. That's what I think.
Yeah, and the thing is, P. Diner, Paula Frolic of News Nation is making it clear that William is very serious.
Her calm delivery hit William like lightning. This wasn't rumor or tabloid noise anymore. It was a calculated move, a cold strategy to undermine her credibility, and in doing so, weaken the strength of the monarchy itself. And that moment flipped everything on its head. William suddenly saw the truth. These attacks weren't random noise, they were sharp, organized hits aimed straight at the woman destined to be queen. That realization hardened him instantly. What once seemed like a public relations issue had turned into a full-blown power problem, and the monarchy couldn't keep pretending it didn't see it anymore. William knew action wasn't optional, it was urgent. By mid-November, he received a classified security briefing that would change the game completely. This wasn't routine, wasn't ceremonial, and definitely wasn't symbolic. It was raw and straight to the point. Royal security teams had been digging deep into online harassment campaigns, and what they found was chilling.
Sources are telling you the Duke and Duchess of Sussex may lose their title. Why? How did this happen?
Well, this happened because Andrew lost the title and Prince William stood up and took notice at how easy it was.
This wasn't just random hate or organic outrage. It was a network, coordinated, amplified, and strategic. Groups of accounts moved in sync, dropping identical lines and spreading the same story at the exact same time. Catherine was clearly the target. And when William asked the question that had been haunting him, the answer came carefully, but unmistakably. A major part of the network traced back to pro-Sussex supporters. What had once been a quiet family feud had turned into a digital war zone, a calculated campaign designed to shake the foundation of the royal family itself. Catherine, always composed and steady, never demanded action, even when the pressure around her was brutal. She carried herself with quiet discipline and razor-sharp focus, even as hostility shadowed her every move. But watching his wife silently endure those calculated blows while still performing her royal duties and raising their children forced William to face a brutal truth. Silence was no longer noble, it was dangerous. Every half-measure, every ignored red flag had given her critics space to strike. From that point on, William saw everything crystal clear. This wasn't just personal anymore, it was institutional.
Harry's book, Harry talks about how they bonded, Meghan Markle and the king, and just how close they truly were.
Doing nothing had become a risk the monarchy couldn't afford. Those slightly open doors left unattended for too long had turned into wide gateways for chaos to slip through. For the first time in decades, William's silence cracked, making way for action. Real, decisive, no turning back action. And this was just the beginning. While William reached that sharp moment of clarity, Charles was buckling under a weight few could imagine. October 2024 had been relentless. His staff was stretched thin, communication teams drowning in crises, and every hour of diplomacy or state work pushed aside just to contain the next wave of Sussex-related controversy. Behind closed doors, Charles confided to a trusted aide, saying, "I feel trapped between my love for Harry and my responsibility to the Institute." His heart wanted peace and family healing, but years of quiet hope had hardened into something painful, perilous. Every unanswered question fueled another media storm, and every delay sparked a brand new crisis. Charles, already struggling with serious health concerns, felt the pressure closing in from all sides, both personally and as head of the institution. William saw it all play out. He listened carefully as his father spoke about forgiveness, patience, and the power of time. But he could also see what that patience was costing them. Hope alone wasn't enough anymore. It couldn't hold a centuries-old monarchy together under this kind of fire. What was needed now were boundaries, strong ones, clear lines, firm defense, and leadership that didn't flinch. Slowly, William came to realize something his father hadn't yet accepted. To truly protect the institution, some relationships needed management through firmness, not emotion. Compassion had its place, but it couldn't replace accountability. If the crown was going to survive the chaos brewing ahead, action had to come before rumors grew into full-blown instability. That clarity shaped William's next step, not rational, nor insecure. Do. He believed the future king had to lead with strength, boldness, and the courage to make hard calls. And just when his silence could no longer hold, Princess Anne stepped forward. She didn't raise her voice, but she didn't sugarcoat a thing either. She came in calm but sharp, delivering clarity with surgical precision. "You cannot protect everyone," Anne said firmly. Then she told William something that would stay with him forever. "At some point, you choose the institution or the individual creating instability." Her voice never wavered, but her words hit like a strike of truth. Anne has lived her entire life in service. She sees what others can't face. She knows institutions don't survive by shielding emotions. They survive by holding boundaries strong. Sentiment, loyalty, and personal ties can't outweigh the structure that keeps the monarchy standing tall. William had been searching desperately for a middle ground, a way to protect his family while still preserving the crown. But Anne shattered that illusion in one clean blow. There was no middle ground anymore, not when the stakes were this high. The monarchy itself was on the line. By this point, the pressure surrounding William was impossible to ignore. Catherine was under non-stop attack, Charles was worn to the bone, and palace staff were whispering about whether the system could even hold together. International allies were watching every move, quietly measuring just how stable the royal house really was. Each week that passed, every moment of hesitation only raised the risk higher. And finally, William faced the truth his father still couldn't. To protect the institution, some relationships must be handled with firmness, not emotion. Compassion couldn't replace accountability. Not if the crown hoped to survive the storm that was now right at its door. Action had to come fast, before whispers of speculation exploded into full-blown instability. That was the turning point for William. His next steps weren't impulsive or emotional. They were precise, grounded in a new sense of clarity and unshakable resolve. He knew now what a future monarch had to embody: strength, decisiveness, and the courage to move when silence stopped working. And just when the pressure was peaking, Anne stepped in again, steady, sharp, and completely unshaken. She didn't raise her voice, and she didn't sugarcoat a thing. Her message hit like steel. "You cannot protect everyone," she said, her words cutting straight through the noise. Then she said it again, slower this time. "At some point, you choose the institution or the individual creating instability." Anne had lived by that truth for decades. She had seen what others tried to ignore: that survival doesn't come from comfort, it comes from boundaries. Institutions only last because they draw firm lines. Loyalty can't overrule duty, and feelings can't come before stability. William had held tight to the dream of balance, hoping he could protect everyone without tearing the system apart. But that illusion collapsed fast under the weight of reality. There was no middle ground when the monarchy itself hung in the balance. The pressure surrounding William only grew heavier. Catherine was still facing calculated attacks. Charles looked worn and fragile, and palace staff whispered doubts about whether the structure could hold. Even international partners were watching closely, quietly calculating how reliable the crown truly was. Every day of hesitation multiplied the danger, and what began as family drama had now turned into a deep structural crisis. Anne's words echoed through William's mind like a drumbeat: firm, final, and impossible to forget. Real leadership demanded action, and William finally saw it. Decisiveness wasn't optional anymore, and protection couldn't be endless. Every moment of hesitation had a cost, and chaos had been allowed to creep too far. The crown's credibility, its very function, was starting to pay the price. By the end of that tense briefing, William accepted a brutal truth. Sacrifice was no longer avoidable. The institution had to come first, no matter how heavy that choice felt. In Anne's calm and fearless clarity, he found the strength he'd been searching for all along. This wasn't about family tension anymore, not about grudges or private pain. This was about survival. The integrity of the monarchy itself was now on the line. December 1st, Windsor Castle, a private study wrapped in heavy silence. William arrived early, a single folder in his hand, the one holding the statement that would end decades of speculation, once and for all. The air felt thick, time itself almost slowing down. He placed the folder on the desk and waited, knowing nothing would ever be the same after this. Charles entered next, clearly exhausted, his face marked by weeks of non-stop strain. Then Anne followed, sharp, precise, her focus unwavering. And finally, Catherine walked in, composed and steady, ready to witness a moment that would rewrite royal history. There was no performance, no pageantry, just a room filled with weight, purpose, and choices that could no longer be postponed. William opened the meeting without ceremony, but with absolute intent. The decision was final, and silence followed like thunder after lightning. The statement was read aloud, slowly and deliberately, every line carved with precision. Each word carried the weight of closure, leaving no room for spin, confusion, or denial. Catherine was the first to break the silence, her voice steady as stone. "It's clear. It doesn't attack. It states reality," she said. Her calm words sliced through the tension hanging in the air. She made it plain that this statement wasn't emotional, wasn't revenge. It was truth, pure institutional truth. A declaration of clarity, nothing more, nothing less. Charles hesitated, visibly carrying the gravity of the moment across his face. The pause stretched, the room still as stone. Then, finally, he nodded and said softly, "You have my support." It wasn't the response of a man getting what he wanted, but of a father choosing to trust his son's judgment. And that trust mattered, more than anyone realized. At 7:48 a.m., the next morning, the statement went live across the world. In seconds, headlines flipped, social feeds lit up, and history itself shifted in real time. A chapter closed, sharp and final, and the monarchy took a new step forward, clearer and more controlled than it had been in years. Nothing would ever return to how it was before. Meanwhile, at 4:48 a.m., California time, Harry's phone buzzed quietly in the dark. Half asleep, he reached for it, expecting another routine update. But what he saw, frozen in place. He read the statement alone, in complete silence. This wasn't palace spin. And it wasn't staged PR. It was something far more real and far more personal. This was no palace leak. This was his brother, Prince William, speaking directly and shutting a door that would never open again. There was no misunderstanding it. Sources later revealed that in that instant, something inside Harry cracked. Meghan's reaction was quieter, more composed, but even her calm couldn't mask the weight of what had just landed. The statement had wiped away all flexibility, gone completely. No loopholes, no gray areas, no space to twist or reinterpret. For years, ambiguity had been Meghan's armor, a soft shield that let stories shift and reshape whenever needed. But that shield was gone now. William's words had slammed the door shut publicly and permanently. There would be no rewriting the past, no smoothing out accountability, no more blurred lines about what really happened. The moment itself passed quietly, without drama or theatrics, but its impact was explosive. This wasn't gossip anymore, not family back and forth, not stalled negotiation. This was final. The monarchy had acted, and history had shifted in real time. For Harry and Meghan, the message was crystal clear. The world they once believed could bend around them was now solid, defined, and unmoving. Their path split from the monarchy's momentum, with no overlap, no intersection, and no turning back. And make no mistake, this wasn't symbolic. It was operational, immediate, and absolute. The consequences hit instantly. No royal coordination, no institutional backing, no inclusion at future milestones. Every event, every appearance, every expectation of belonging was erased in an instant, rewritten by the firmest royal statement in decades. Meghan's future was now completely her own, but it came without royal leverage, without influence, and without the protection that once shadowed every move. The uncertainty that once gave her space to pivot was gone. The maybes and somedays wiped out in one decisive stroke. History now carried William's choice as fact, sealed in the royal record with no room for revision. The line had been drawn. The file was closed. What remained was freedom, but a heavy kind of freedom. Every decision, every door opened or closed, every consequence from here on out would fall entirely on Meghan and her tight inner circle. This wasn't punishment, it was definition. The monarchy had finally clarified its boundaries, staking its future on transparency and strength. Royal insiders recognized it instantly. This was history in motion. An unprecedented move in the modern monarchy. A clean, public, and irreversible separation of influence, executed with cold precision. For Meghan, it wasn't symbolic. Not for show, it was operational. The shift hit immediately and left no doubt about its reach. There would be no royal coordination, no institutional support, and no presence at future royal milestones. Not ever. Every invitation, every official appearance, every link to palace operations was erased overnight. The recalibration was instant and absolute. Meghan's story would now unfold entirely under her own command, but without the royal weight that once opened doors. The ambiguity she'd once relied on had vanished, replaced by stark clarity. A new chapter written in permanent ink. The maybes and somedays that once gave room for flexibility inside the royal narrative were gone, erased completely. History now carried William's decision as cold, hard fact, sealed into the official record and impossible to contest. Freedom, yes, but it came loaded with the full weight of independence. Every choice, every opportunity, and every consequence now fell squarely on Meghan and her closest circle. There would be no shared safety net, no royal cushion, and no one to absorb the fallout. This shift wasn't punishment, it was definition. The crown had drawn its lines, locked its boundaries, and made sure precedent would guide every move from here on out. Observers immediately recognized the scale of it, an extraordinary moment in the modern monarchy. A permanent public severing of influence, carried out with quiet discipline and surgical precision. For Meghan, it was both liberation and limitation, a door opening and closing at the same time. Now, the story belonged solely to her. The narrative was hers to write, but the platform was gone. No royal machinery, no institutional backing, no hidden leverage. The path forward stood in plain sight, unmistakably defined. There was no ambiguity left, no negotiation to be had. The crown had spoken, and history would document it in bold ink. This wasn't revenge, it was resolution. William had chosen certainty over hope, protection over sentiment, the institution over illusion. That single choice shaped everything that followed. a line drawn so sharply it divided eras. This was leadership under fire, clarity, decisiveness, and unshakable boundaries, even when personal ties made every move ache. Historians will argue about the ethics, the timing, and the heartbreak, but one fact remains undeniable. The monarchy had changed forever. At 7:48 a.m., on a cold December morning, Prince William ended the longest unresolved chapter in modern royal history. A monarchy once buried under whispers, speculation, and endless internal tension finally broke free, stepping forward with bold, unmistakable intent. From that single moment, the direction of the crown was no longer uncertain. The path was straight. The message was firm. William's reign would be defined by this choice. This decision didn't just close a door, it set the tone for a new era. It became the blueprint for how he would lead, showing allies, critics, and the world that stability must always outweigh convenience, and principle must rise above sentiment. It reminded everyone that clarity, not comfort, is the heart of leadership. Because sometimes, protecting an institution means standing firm when emotions pull you in every direction. From that day on, the monarchy stopped waiting and started moving with purpose. Every decision became intentional, every message controlled, every narrative sharpened. Speculation no longer dictated the story, action did. The age of uncertainty was over. The era of William's clarity, discipline, and forward drive had begun. Years from now, historians will still circle back to this day. The day a future king proved that strength and decisiveness could steady even the oldest institution in the world. His legacy will forever be tied to this moment, the moment he chose duty over doubt and vision over hesitation. And that's it, the turning point that reshaped the monarchy forever. If you've been following this royal deep dive, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more shocking breakdowns and behind-the-scenes revelations. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.